What's up, YouTube? This is your boy Thomas back again with another rendition of Truth Be Told. This week there wasn't a lot in the news. Biden and Trump had their little town hall debate meetings, which is just a joke. It's ridiculous that they can't debate together and have a unbiased reporter. The reporter that interviewed Trump just grilled him to no end for no reason, just to be an idiot. And then the one that interviewed Biden just let him go like a cakewalk, didn't even ask him any really hard questions. It was all a show, a political show. It was retarded by the media. The media is just terrible, terrible. They should have had Tucker Carlson do the interviews, honestly. And then the same thing they tried to impeach Trump on twice. They actually have the evidence with Biden and his son Hunter actually doing it, committing the crime a couple of times. And yet there's no investigation on him whatsoever. It's a joke. It's retarded. It needs to stop. Democrats need to own up to their bullshit. So does the media. But good luck trying to have that happen, since most of the media is ran by big tech, and big tech pretty much runs most of this country. They get away with all kinds of bullshit. I saw a rumor, something about Alex Kurtzman is trying to do a spin-off reboot of Deep Space Nine. I don't know how that's going to go. Until they actually get some decent writers, Star Trek is pretty much dead. But this surprises me. They want to reboot DS9 for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, it was okay. It wasn't the best of the franchise, but it was alright. But Kurtzman, he'll destroy it regardless. A rumor saying that they plan on rebooting the Texas Chainsaw Massacre again. We know how it went with freaking zombies. Rob Zombie's versions of Halloween, remakes, reboots, whatever you want to call them. The Nightmare on Elm Street reboot, it didn't do very good at all either. They had a reboot of Friday the 13th, which practically no one heard about. It didn't do any good either. So I don't know why they keep trying to reboot these, old horror flicks. It's not working. Most of the ones that want to rewrite them or re-envision it or whatever, they're going way off of what it should actually be, and that's why it's not doing it. That's why they suck. What's it, Jordan Peele or whatever, that freaking retard, what a hack. Anyway, he tried to reboot that Candyman, and it's no good. It's not going to be any good either, even if it's out. I don't know if it finally came out or whatever, but seriously, who cares? He's a hackless, talented motherfucker anyway. Anyways, none of these reboots of horror flicks are doing any good. I don't know why. No one can seem to come up with an original idea in Hollywood anymore. They just try to make money off the names, the nostalgia, and they need to stop doing that shit. Moving on. Your date tip, online dating tip for this week. Some of you may have heard of this site, some of you may have not. But this is usually, for mobiles, the go-to site usually is Tinder, or Zoom or whatever. You know, you've probably heard of Match and eHarmony, but the one site that seems to be really popular with the PC, a site called POF, which stands for Plenty of Fish. It's a free online dating site. Well, it used to be completely free, you know, back 7 years ago when I first was on there. Yes, I've tried it. I'm even tried it now. But that, like I said, that was like 7 years ago or better. It was completely free then. Now it's not. They got certain features or whatever they want you to pay extra for. And I'm not paying to talk to someone online. That's just retarded. Never do that. It's not worth the money. Anyways, the one thing I want to state about this site is 90% of the people you're going to see, well, I'm not sure about guys, you know, I don't date guys, I'm not gay, so I don't know from a woman's perspective, only what some have told me. But from my experience, you're going to see a lot of large women on this site. Most of the women are not, you're not going to find no supermodel, some skinny little petite thing. It's just not going to happen. Most of them have some type of weight on them. A lot of them let themselves go. There are a few that are decent looking, but they're far and few in between. You will run across a bunch of them who has either done drugs or is doing drugs. You'll run across that a lot too. But the main problem I find, and I'm just, this is mainly for the guys, because I don't know how it works for the women. But be careful when you're looking at these profiles. Like I said in the last video, 90% of these women, they just look at the pictures. I'm sure a lot of the guys do too. But most people do not read these profiles. However, I do read the profiles, and I'm going to tell you right now, you got to be careful, because a lot of these women, they will flat out put on there right at the very bat, you know, I'm a single mother of 3 or better children, you know, 3 or more, you know, children. And they always come first. You don't need to tell us that. We already know that. But your children should not dictate what you do or say or who you date. And your children should be well mannered. You need to, as a parent, you need to discipline your kids, not baby them, you know, let them run all over you and tell you what to do. You're the parent, you're the boss, not them. A lot of these single mothers, you got to be careful with these single mothers, because they don't discipline their children. They just let them run wild. That's what I've experienced. The majority of the women do not discipline their children. They let them run wild. So you got to be really careful when you're dating these single mothers. I'm not saying all of them are like that, but the vast majority of them are. So be very, it sends a red flag. You know, ladies, for you ladies, that sends a red flag when you say, well, I got 3 or more children. And a lot of times they're by different fathers. They're not always from the same father. So that's another red flag. And I'm just telling the guys, you need to be careful when it comes to the single mothers, because they will 90% of the time let their children dictate how or run their life, and that's a real problem, because they don't act like their parent. They try to be their best friend, and you can't do that. You have to be the parent first. Anyways, that's my online dating tip for you for this week. Be careful of the single mothers. Let's get on to your B-movie reviews. Again, this month is October, so we're doing all horror flicks this month, so this is another horror week. The first movie that I decided to review was pretty much suggested, not consciously but more unconsciously. They had mentioned Invasion of the Body Snatchers from the 70s with Donald Sutherland, that they had just watched that. And that gave me the idea to watch the original version, which was done in 1956, and it starred Kevin McCarthy and Dana Winter. It actually made about $3 million worldwide, which for, you know, the 50s, that wasn't too shabby. That was actually fairly decent. They definitely made their money's worth. Now, I'm not a huge fan of black and white films, and this is a black and white film. However, I can watch black and white films. I just prefer things in color, so I can do it every now and then. I'm just not a big fan. Other than that, the film, you know, as long as the story's good, I'm good with black and white. I just not a big fan of watching black and white films. Basically, if you've seen any of, because there's this version, which is the original, then you have the 70 version, then you have the 90s version, which is just called Body Snatchers, and then you have the 2000s version, which I believe had Nicole Kidman in it. It's called The Invasion. And apparently they're already working on, Warner Brothers is working on another version. So get ready to get another remake of this movie coming out here pretty soon. If you've seen any of the other versions, you pretty much got the gist of it. You're introduced to a small town through a local doctor. He gets a lot of reports that people don't seem that they're like themselves, like something's off about them. You just barely could tell that there's something different about certain people, like their loved ones or whatever. They tell there's just something a little off about them. They just can't put their finger on it. But other than that, they act like the typical person that they're supposed to be. The doctor, of course, is kind of skeptical at first. But he keeps getting these reports in from different people. So, he eventually comes across one couple who finds a body in their house. When he goes to investigate, the body is almost a perfect match of the male of the couple. Almost identical. But not quite. There's just a few features that are missing. So now he knows something's going on. He eventually finds another almost duplicate of his girlfriend in the basement of her father's house, which she's staying at. She was gone for a while. She came back, and now she's living there until she gets on her feet. So he decides to get the local psychologist, I guess you would call him, or psychiatrist, whatever, psychologist, psychiatrist. He gets him involved. The body ends up missing. In fact, both bodies end up missing. The sheriff threatens to lock him up if he doesn't stop. He must be just seeing things. And he's all like, okay, whatever. So then eventually the doctor and his girlfriend and the couple figure out something's going on in town. So they start watching other people of the town. The doctor gets his friend that's friends who are the other couple. He gets them to go out of town the next day to try to find some help while they investigate the townsfolk and see what's going on. Him and his girlfriend. So the couple goes to go get help outside of town. The doctor and his girlfriend notice that there's these pods that they keep using to try to duplicate people with. Out of these pods, forms a duplicate, like a clone or something. So, like these giant seeds. They find the townsfolk has pretty much been all converted, and they're all loading them in these trucks to go to different places. The couple that they were hoping to help find help, they get converted, and then they try to convert the doctor and his girlfriend. They escape from the town, but the doctor's girlfriend falls asleep inside this cave, and she gets converted or duplicated. So the doctor gets out of town. He figures out a way to get out of town, gets on the highway. He's at this, I guess you call it, city mental hospital, and he tells his story to the doctors, the psychiatrist there. They don't believe him. They think he's crazy. But then, close to the end, they find out that there was a truck overturned. There was a bunch of pods in it, which convinces them something's going on, because they figure out it came from the same town the doctor did. So the doctors try to get a hold of the FBI, and that's the end of the movie. He saved the day. Now, this was the good version ending of this story.
You know who I am?
In the later versions, the doctor doesn't save the day. I'll just put it that way, just spoiler alert. Story-wise, this was actually a really good story. It's a classic sci-fi story. You know, an alien invasion. It was done rather well. So I definitely give the story a 4. It was definitely a good story. The acting was pretty spot on. It was actually pretty good. I definitely, you know, you had some really good actors in this. I definitely they knew how to act back then. You know, as compared to today's actors. So I give it a 4 on the acting. You know, as far as special effects go, you couldn't see a lot of flaws because of the black and white. It's done in black and white. So they were able to get away with a lot of stuff as far as you know, special effects when it came to black and white movies. But it was definitely a good 3 for what they were doing. You know, showing the pod people or whatever, or the clones growing in the pods. It was actually done fairly decently. So to get the story keep rolling and not go, oh, that looks real cheesy. Nah, it looked actually fairly decent for back then. They did a really good job. So I definitely give it a 3 for decency on the special effects. Overall, this is a really good movie. Even though, like I said, it's in black and white, it's still a really good story. It reminded you of the old classic Twilight Zone television show. So I definitely give it a 4. It was definitely a solid 4. Not perfect, but it was dadgum pretty good. Definitely give it a check it out. It's 2 thumbs up for me. Alright, let's move on to your next one. The second one I chose for this week is a typical slasher movie. You know, like Halloween, Friday the 13th, that kind of thing. However, this one was done in 1974. It made about $4 million at the box office, which was okay. Well, it didn't do horrible, but it didn't do like really great. But this is considered a real classic when it comes to slasher films. It supposedly gave the inspiration to John Carpenter to do Halloween, which is actually considered the first great slasher film. There's been many slasher films done before then, even before this one, like in the 50s and 60s. However, this movie is called Black Christmas. Maybe you've heard of it. It is considered what started the slasher film genre that allowed you to see from the perspective or vision of the killer. You know, you got to see through the killer's eyes. It's the first one that tried that. It started that. This started John Saxon, Margaret Kidder, Olivia Hussey, and Keir Dalia. The story was a little off to me. It didn't quite fit right. Basically, you just have a sorority house of these girls. They're all planning on going somewhere for the Christmas holiday. One of these girls, well, at the very beginning, you see the killer, you know, through his eyes. You know, he climbs up into the attic and he starts killing them off one by one. after the first girl goes missing, there is also like a 13-year-old girl that the police find the body in this park not too far from the sorority house, and that's why John Saxon shows up. And then they tell them that one of the girls are missing, and they keep getting these weird prank phone calls. These phone calls are retarded and ridiculous. I thought they went way overboard on the prank phone calls. They just were dumb. If you ever watch this movie, you'll see what I'm talking about. The prank phone calls were just dumb as shit. I get, having the prank phone calls or whatever, but not the way this movie does it. Nobody, you would never hear something like that. It was dumb and asinine. John Saxon, he's a cop, and he decides to put a wiretap on the phone, and that's pretty much all he does. He just listens to the phone, the wiretap, pretty much the whole entire time through most of the movie. As I said, the girls start disappearing one by one. You have this one particular girl. She thinks her boyfriend is the killer because she's freaking him out. But then she realizes he can't be the killer. But she goes and kills him anyway towards the end of the movie. And, the police kind of help convince her that he must have been the killer because she had ended up pregnant, and he didn't like the fact that she was pregnant. Yada, yada, yada. He wasn't happy about it. Not because she was pregnant, but because she wanted to get an abortion. He didn't want her getting an abortion. He didn't think it was right, and I don't blame him. But regardless, the simple fact was, she knew he wasn't really the killer, but towards the end, she kills the dude anyway. Because he's trying to help her, but she takes it as he's trying to attack her. So she kills him. John Saxon shows up and says, yeah, it must have been him, blah, blah, blah. And she's in the house, in the bed, by herself. They give her a sedative. The doctor checked up on her, blah, blah, blah. They clear the house. They leave a guard outside the front door to watch the place. And then they leave. And then it shows that the killer is still there. They never found the other bodies because they're up there in the attic with the killer. And he starts calling her again. Right at the very end, he tries calling her again. I had a few problems with this movie. As you know, the whole boyfriend being the killer when she knew he really wasn't the killer, that was one problem. The second problem was the police weren't really doing their job. They weren't really looking for these missing women. All they did was put a phone tap on the phone and then blame the boyfriend for all the killing. That's literally all they did. Even though, she told him he couldn't have done it. There's a couple times when some of the girls got killed or disappeared that he was with her. So it didn't make no sense. Was the simple fact that you didn't know why it doesn't tell you anything about the serial killer, like why is he killing all these girls? Why is he hiding out in the attic? Why is he making phone calls from the same damn house? Which, that story's been done and told even before this movie came out. So you've had the story about, the killer is calling from inside the house. It's been done before. So that was another problem I had. That, not many times, but it had been done before. But yeah, you knew nothing about the serial killer or his motives, why he's doing everything, who he was, nothing like that. And then they just leave it off like that. He's still there, and they left her by herself pretty much. They put a guard outside the front door, but still, he's in the attic. you know he's going to kill her. They leave it off that way. I don't know. It was kind of strange. Didn't make a lot of sense. I was trying so hard to stay awake during this movie. I'm not a huge fan of slasher films because it's the same shit over and over again. There are a few that I do like, but they're few and far in between. As far as acting wise goes, the acting was alright. It wasn't bad. I give it a 3. It was decent. I love John Saxon. He was a great actor. The story wise, I give it a 2 because there was just so many unanswered questions during this movie. It didn't make any sense what was going on. So I give it a 2. The story wasn't really that great. As far as special effects, this is the 70s. And this is a slasher film, you know, the gore scenes or whatever. I give it a 2. It wasn't really that spectacular. Overall, the movie gets, I don't know. I didn't think this is considered a cult classic, but I didn't think it was that great. I give it a 3 for effort, you know. I mean, barely. It wasn't quite that great. You know, I don't consider it to be a classic because it wasn't really that good. But that's just my opinion. You may think differently. I give it a thumbs up, thumbs down. It's a watch, but not a great one. I honestly think this film could have been done way, way better. But the story just wasn't that good. There are a few other versions of this. I think there was a attempted remake in the early 2000s. I think it was 2009 or something like that. But it was god awful, so you didn't really hear much about it. And then they just recently tried to do another remake, which had nothing to do with the original whatsoever. It was absolutely piss poor, bad, really bad. And I think they're trying to do another remake of this movie. They're not going to leave this one alone for some reason. Now sometimes I'll run into what most people consider a cult classic film, and then not all the time, but once in a while I'll watch the film and something I've never seen, and then I'm just like, well, I don't get it. Why is it a cult classic? Because it's really not that good. And I kind of felt that way with this one, with Black Christmas. Cult classics are not always real good. A lot of them are actually kind of bad. But there are some that are actually good. But this one wasn't one of them. That's all I have for you this week. If you have any thoughts on what I said earlier in this video, please leave your thoughts down in the comments section down below. If you have any suggestions, like some gems from films that I might have never seen before, go ahead and leave your suggestions down in the comments down below. I'll get to reviewing them as soon as I can. Anyways, that's it for this week. Until next time, I told you you'd be told the truth, and you've just been told.